So look, crypto's next local top might be a lot closer than you think. The good news is there's still room for prices to move higher, okay? So in my opinion, the next local top for crypto, that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, all that kind of stuff, could occur as soon as the second week of September, maybe sometime around early October, with Bitcoin priced around $150,000, ETH priced around $700, Solana probably around $400. Plain and simple, there it is. So in this video, let me show you where I'm getting this time frame from, the prices, and where, in my opinion, prices go after that next local top through to the end of the year and into 2026. So, and of course, guys, I don't have a crystal ball, all right? No crystal balls, all out over here. They're not made out of crystal anyway, but I do have charts. So let's start with charts and time frames and data, okay? I'm thinking the next local top in crypto could happen around the second week of September. Again, it's not a perfect science. Maybe sometime like first week of October could be something like that as well. But that time frame there, okay? Now I'm coming up with this based off of the Bitcoin Global M2 about 10-week lead chart from bgeometrics.com. Now, some people say it's 12 weeks. Some people say it's 14 weeks. That's where I give a bit of leeway here. It's not a perfect correlation all the time. It's not exactly to the day it's an approximate, okay? But the approximate's putting us right in that range. Now, just for the sake of simplicity here, let's just use the second week of September as our sort of opening window to when that top is going to come in, okay? Now you can see that in Bitcoin's price here, it's in black, and global M2 on this chart is in blue. Now understand that the global M2 data here is mostly derived from recent central bank reporting. However, BGeometrics adds an M2 forecast or projection at the very end of it. Basically, the tail end of this M2 data is a prediction as to where global M2 is probably headed, even though the actual data from the central banks has not yet been released. So it's a bit speculative in that regard. Now, as an aside, this prediction is generated from recent trends and sort of central bank signals that they might be sending out to the market, okay? Stuff like that. Finally, BGeometrics takes all of this data, both the historical M2 data and the forecast, then shifts it all forward about 10 weeks into the future. Now, why do they shift everything 10 weeks forward? And again, 10 weeks just from these guys, other analysts say 12, 14, whatever, okay? But that's why we have a window, right? Basically, they do this because they believe that it takes about 10 weeks for changes in global M2 to actually filter through the system and be reflected in the prices of assets like Bitcoin. All right, now, that gives you an understanding of the nuts and bolts of this chart. So looking at it again, it does appear that Bitcoin's price is, of course, correlated with global M2. We've talked about this before. It's about an 83% correlation with global M2. When M2 is shifted forward by about 10 weeks, we get a pretty interesting result. With regards to this local crypto top prediction for the second week of September, we're getting this because this model has global M2 hitting a local peak around September 7th or so, and then modestly pulling back from there into October. And this data aligns with other analysts like i3 Invest, who show basically the same thing here. Global liquidity should have a local peak around mid-September. A local peak, not a final peak. I think we still have a lot of room for the liquidity to run in this cycle. So the second week of September is, again, when the window opens. It might take a little longer. Correlation is not perfectly set at 10, 11, 12 weeks, whatever, but approximately. So that's the area for the next local peak in crypto, because I think crypto, of course, is correlated with global M2. As we've seen, it has a heavy correlation, in fact. Now let's talk about price targets for next month. Before we do that, though, guys, if you're trading these cryptocurrency markets, you need a good account to do that. You need a good exchange to do it. That place is BitUnix, where I'm doing most of my futures trading these days, and it's never been a better time to sign up. Of course, it's no KYC, it's no VPN, it's no BS. Anyone, anywhere, that's you, can trade on BitUnix. And here's the deal. Right now, limited time offer when you sign up using this link right down below here, 30% off your fees. Crazy. You're also gonna have to $400 in deposit bonuses. Deposit $2,000, you get $400 cash back money in your account, and just insane trading bonuses all the way up to like $8,000 and like 15K or 3 ETH. So big deals here. Check it out. Link down below. Get started trading the way you should be trading, with freedom. Okay, now price predictions for crypto. So look, specifically 150K BTC and 7K ETH in September, probably like $400 Solana, $4 XRP, all that kind of stuff around that time too. Now I'll admit that this price prediction is more speculative than the timing argument I just made. That's also speculative, but a little more data driven, but hear me out. So here's the basic argument. Global M2 makes a fairly significant jump from August to September, and since Bitcoin is correlated with global M2, I'm expecting a fairly significant jump in both Bitcoin and Ethereum over that similar time frame over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Specifically, M2 should increase from 111 trillion this month to 114 trillion in September. So when looking at the Bitcoin chart and thinking about, okay, if we're about to get more significant upside move coming into Bitcoin here, then what is the most likely price target for that to be? Well, here I'm looking at the 2.618 Fibonacci level, and that's just around $155,000 right now. That to me looks like a very reasonable target for Bitcoin's next major move, the next local top for BTC. And it's the same logic with Ethereum. If Bitcoin heads to $155,000, then that should be more than enough tailwinds behind ETH to send it to the 1.618 Fibonacci line, especially with Tom Lee and Joseph Lubin and all these guys buying tens of billions of dollars worth of ETH, right? Now, that 1.618 line, that's just a few $100s above $7,000. So there you go. That's my argument behind these price predictions. Basically, M2 is projected to make a significant upside move into September and find a local peak. That's what the data is showing us right now. And since these Fibonacci levels for Bitcoin and Ethereum are the next logical price targets, I think Bitcoin and Ethereum can have corresponding moves in September up to these target levels. Now, that's the next local top. Let's discuss where prices are likely heading after the next local peak mid-September and through into the rest of the year and even in 2026. Well, just to state it directly, I think we probably get a slight pullback in prices in October after we find the local peak around 150K BTC, 7K ETH. We're probably going to get a pullback. That's also the forecast for global M2. Global M2 pulls back a little bit. Markets will correlate with that. But after October, we then resume the upwards price action through the end of the year and through 2026. By the way, if we get rate cuts in September, which likely, not certain, but likely, that also probably is a buy the rumor, sell the news to some kind of extent. And it's because of the same reasoning here again. So global M2 generally projected to keep increasing through the end of the year and through the first 2 quarters of 2026. So if M2 will keep expanding over this time frame, then accounting for some modest pullbacks, some disgusting crashes within all that, then the price of Bitcoin and crypto should keep, in theory, increasing as well. Interesting. And again, the timing of the global M2 and the next rate cut coming, it all just lines up so well. And rate cut comes, everyone's going to expect everything to go up, and people start taking profits. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, beware of the October dip. It's likely in this scenario. Remember, there's a lot of uncertainty as to whether we're still in the traditional 4-year cycle or if we're in a new extended cycle. And if we get a 150K BTC top in September or early October, everyone's going to say, that's it, cycle's over. We're done. That was the top for 4 years. Good night. See you next time. I disagree. It will not be. Okay? It'll be next level top and people will take profits, but you can take profits. You're allowed to take profits, right? But people will be grave dancing and saying it's all over when BTC pulls back from 150 to 110K. Those are going to be some crazy times. Look, I'm increasingly thinking that we're in an extended cycle because of the treasury companies, because of all the ETFs and everything else, the correlation with the stock market. But if we indeed get a pump to 150K in Bitcoin in September, followed by a modest correction in October, again, a lot of people will interpret this as this correction that comes as the beginning of the bear market or the 4-year cycle theory, which is going to catch a lot of people off. But consensus ideas tend to have a way of not happening. And that's kind of the consensus right now, that the 4-year cycle will happen. When in fact, Bitcoin might just be following global M2 and will only rip higher as it follows M2 up through the end of 2025 and into 2026 under an extended cycle idea. Basically, the idea is that people will sell off their bags way too early and end up getting sidelined because they're fundamentally misinterpreting what's really happening here. So that's the big idea of this video. And obviously, we'll continue to discuss this as we head into September to keep an eye out for it and see if this thesis comes true or not. And then go watching through Q4 of 2025 and into Q1 and Q2. We'll be making videos, guys. Don't worry. We'll keep you up to date on the M2 and everything happening in crypto. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.